Hello again, everyone. It's Monday afternoon, and I felt very compelled to make a quick supplemental video for this Sunday's homily, the 16th Sunday of Ordinary Time. The message was pretty clear, pretty straightforward in most ways. The only part that I really wanted to expand on, which may not have made sense to people the first time they heard it, was that mention that to be Mary without Martha is to have a stagnant faith. I think people got that part. But then saying Martha without Mary is just as doomed. If we had double the time to expand on that, I would have gone into it. But time constraints being what they are, it's time to unpack that a little bit more. The reason people may not come to that conclusion right away is if you do good deeds, common sense would say that that goes a long way. I believe the phrase that's been all over, we have Catholic saints and apologists all over that say, yeah, it's better to be an honest atheist than a hypocritical Christian. And that's true. That's true. If you're going to follow Christ as a disciple, it's got to be real. Got to go all in, so to speak. But the idea that there is a solution that somehow involves a complete divorcing of someone from being with Christ, that's something that doesn't work. So I have a minor point and a major point, which I wanted to share today. The major point just being something I've wanted to share for a while now, and now's a really good opportunity. For the sake of argument, for the sake of clarity, let's interpret being with Christ, the Mary part of Mary and Martha, being with Christ, let's expand that and just say it's having faith, hope, and love alive in your heart. When Mary is at the foot of Jesus, listening to Jesus, trusting in the Lord, she's maintaining faith, hope, and love, the three theological virtues, in her heart. Martha without Mary. Martha, good deeds, without faith, hope, or love, that is doomed to fail. That's what I said on Sunday, very briefly, and I feel it does go against common sense, but there is weight to that. My minor point for today is people who are really determined to be active in advocacy and politics and all of that, but absolutely devoid of those theological virtues. Have you ever listened to someone really championing a cause? They're not technically saying anything wrong or anything you disagree with, and yet you feel uncomfortable listening to them anyway. That's your instinct saying that something is, something out of sync on this. The number one person, for an example today, I haven't seen her in many, many years. She's a fellow millennial like me. I want to say she's 5 years younger than me, and I'm an elder millennial. This is a person in my life who was absolutely 0% Mary, just like I was saying in the homily this Sunday. She had no faith of any kind. She did not have hope. She did not believe that the world was ever going to get better in any way, in any major way. And the reason she's the example today is I wouldn't feel comfortable saying this about anyone if they didn't say it about themselves first. She said explicitly in black and white English, I don't believe in love. for me, I automatically assume all people believe in love in some way. It's only when people explicitly deny it it takes that much. And that's sad. Even though I was just going to end the video right now, that is sad to say that love is an antiquated concept that old people tell each other to fall asleep at night. I don't know. That's sad. But this person, she really was into advocacy and causes and all of that. And her words never rang true to me. Some of her causes I was against. Not all of them. We agreed on some things. But she always made me feel very uncomfortable because she fell into that trap of trying to do good without being good. She was trying to change the world without faith, hope, or love. After a certain point, that's really just egotism. It's just fighting for your causes that will aid you somehow. How can you possibly authentically make the world a better place if you don't have hope or love? It's a troubling thing. And I'm only bringing her up because she's the only person I can think of in my past who explicitly said, I don't believe in love. But I think there's plenty of people who are on my news feed, that we hear, all the time, that kind of fall in that category where they have no inner sense of decency, of passion for being the best person they can be, and they're almost trying to make it up with being active in external ways. And it just doesn't work. And if you have that instinct of, okay, this guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about, but I'm not comfortable listening to him, that instinct is not coming from just that's not random. There's a cognitive dissonance between what he's saying and what he's championing and the way he's really living his own life. So that's my minor point for why we need to be Martha and Mary at the same time, being and doing. Here's the major thing, though. I've really wanted to get this off my chest. So I'm a chaplain, a very part-time chaplain for the sheriff's department. So a while ago I was called. They had what they say is a completed suicide. So I drove up. It was a younger man. And they just asked me to, talk to the family, offer my condolences, maybe a chance to pray with them, if they were open to that sort of thing. So I go, and the family was not interested in talking to me beyond the 5 minutes or so. They had to take care of things. They had to tend to the animals. They were farmers. So I didn't have that much to do as a chaplain. And that's okay. I went, I made the effort. Sometimes that's the best you can do. Well, it took me half an hour to drive there, and I did 5 minutes of work. So the police were still, checking out the apartment, gathering any relevant evidence, making sure the oven's off, just stuff like that. And out of morbid curiosity, a little bit of morbid curiosity, because I had never been in that situation before, I wanted to go in and just see the place. I wasn't going to touch anything or anything. I was just curious what an apartment looks like after a completed suicide. So I went there and just, and I wanted to make sure the cops didn't need me. Sometimes they need to talk to me as much as the family. So I didn't want to leave too quickly. So I went to the apartment and I just kind of hung around the cops as they wrapped up that process. They had already taken him away, so there wasn't anything significant to see any longer in that way. Anyway, so the cops are doing their thing, and I'm looking around, and I got to tell you, right here, right now, I was horrified by what I saw. I was horrified Because I'm looking around and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is my apartment. This is practically my apartment, minus the love. Let me expand on that. The gentleman living here, he had a two-bedroom apartment in what was obviously a low-income apartment complex, and that's where I live. I call it a 1.5 bedroom apartment. It's a 1 bedroom apartment. I live directly above the stairway, so I have like a little side room as an extra. If I had a child or a very broke roommate, we could have made it a very small bedroom. I use it as my computer room. Anyway, I thought about it. I didn't want to give a tour of my place for now, but I love this little place. I don't care that I'm living remarkably cheap. My mom hates it. She hates the fact that I live this frugally because I don't need to, but this place is home. I love it. And the place I visited was very slightly more expensive because it was a 2 bedroom apartment. My furniture was a little bit better because it was donated by friends of the family. His was a little more humble, but still, we were in the same ballpark. He had, a writing desk, in the corner and all this and all that. He was eating off of paper plates with plastic utensils. Most days I eat off of plates that I bought from a church rummage sale sort of thing. So, I mean, I'm not eating off of bone china or anything like that. Anyway, there was so much in common between his living space and mine. But the thing is, if you come to my apartment, I would like to believe my guests would agree that my place has charm. Like, there are happy memories all over this place. There are pictures of me, my family, my friends, moments in the past. I've got, my books. Like, my apartment is lived in. And hopefully that rubs off on when people pay me a visit. And what horrified me about this place was there was none of that. I didn't scour every corner of his place, but there were practically no books. He had some DVDs, and then his TV was about the same size as mine. All that was the same. Very few books. No religious significance. There wasn't a cross on the wall or anything like that. But what weirded me out the most was there were no pictures anywhere of himself or loved ones. Not a single picture, not a single piece of evidence that he was loved. And that was very odd. It was very odd for me to see that. And of course, it's sad. And I've been keeping him in prayer fairly often ever since that day. But as I drove back to the office after we wrapped things up, I was just thinking, that's the shell of a living space that's devoid of faith, hope, and love. I can't prove they didn't have faith. I didn't see any evidence of faith. Very different things. But assuming he did not have any particular faith, he must not have had much hope, because that's what suicide comes from. And I didn't see any significant evidence of love. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong in this way. But it seemed on the surface to be such an empty life. And however much of Martha he may have emulated in his life, he may have been a very active person in the community, and never met the gentleman. He may have done good things in life. But judging from the very shallow evidence of his apartment, and I realize that is not the full story, it seemed like that Marian part of his soul, of being with Christ with faith, hope, and love, that was so severely lacking. And I'm sharing this with you because it was such a meaningful moment with me. Because again, like on the surface, according to the Census Bureau, the two of us live very, very similar lifestyles, and yet we are so very different on a different level. And I'm not saying this to shame him. I'm not saying this to mock him or anything like that. I feel deeply, deeply sorrowful for him. I wish I could have done more for him. I'm sharing this because I want to make the argument that doing good in life and neglecting the theological virtues of faith, hope, and love, that is not a solution in life. When I said on Sunday, to be Martha without Mary is doomed to failure. Common sense would say, hang on, Father Justin, isn't it important to just do what you can in life regardless of what you may or may not believe? You know, there is some truth to that common sense. But a life well lived, a life that is healthy on the spiritual, emotional level, is a life that is active in the community where you are doing good, you are championing causes, and you are caring about what happens in the world, but at the same time you are still nurturing your sense of decency and goodness. You are doing good and you're being good with faith, hope, and love. You can't cut those out of your soul consequence-free. So this is one case where I am going to make my stand against common sense. Doing good deeds, being active in the world, I'm sorry, it's just not enough. You do need to open your heart as best as you can to Christ. Faith, hope, and love. The three things that last. Thanks for watching. Like I said, I needed to get that off my chest. I appreciate it. God bless.